Once you cross that bridge, my friend,
the monster's through his power ends.
so when you're riding home tonight, make for the bridge with all your might. He'll be down in the hollow there. Keep your head, look out, beware.
He finds himself at a Halloween store looking at dismembered body parts in foil or whatever it was, and he looks over and he sees the same guy and goes, "Sean?" And that was where my relationship with Sean started, right there. Remember that, Sean?
Really?
And I believe the first thing I said was, "There's never enough eyeballs when you need them."
And he had my heart at that moment.
What a great pickup line.
Heart at my moment.
I was with my mother. He was with his mother. It was the neatest of
It
cute.
really was.
This is obviously before Lost, right? This is before Lost.
This is before
And
Lost
my
and Pizza.
it was right when
Right
after we had our introduction in baseball. But I'm gonna do my favorite thing Brandon did, which he never remembers, is he was looking at severed hands, and they were in cellophane, like they were wrapped as meat.
You remember?
They're like, had a white tray underneath them, and then cellophane over the top, and he literally held up the hand and waved with the dismembered hand.
Oh shit, Sean!
And you're
You
just looking at
remember?
him like, I don't know if
No, he knew.
I was
He knew
like,
he had found somebody.
My heart. There goes my
Somebody we
heart.
could be copacetic with.
you're just going to be a serial killer. And I'm going to be your catcher.
That was cute.
Welcome to the second installment of our very special 2024 Spooktacular Extravaganza. We're three and a half gentlemen. We're the podcast, where three of the four hosts provide a refined and intellectual analysis of movies from our private collections, while one of us tries desperately to keep up. We'll let you decide which host is which, but for now, my name is Sean, and with me, as always, are my fellow talking heads, Jeremiah.
The Pickety Witch. Who has got a kiss for the Pickety Witch? Yo.
And Eddie.
Is he dead? That's the problem. He was dead to begin with.
Yeah.
And Brandon.
It was a horseman, a dead one, headless.
Perfect.
Oh,
Exactly what I thought he was going to do. That was good.
I was expecting that one. All right. Anyways, even though we're in the middle of our special October episodes, we're still continuing our season structure of playing a loose version of Sits Degrees, while each host chooses their film based off the previous one, as long as the movie shares an actor, actress, composer, director, or writer.
As with every review we give, our goal is to answer one simple question: how many drinks does it take to get through the film that we just watched? Now, at the end of the podcast, we'll rate the movie based on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being a perfect film that you can watch stone cold sober, and 5 being sort of the film that makes you feel like you've just taken a fence post through the chest, after which you're dragged, still alive, through the town graveyard before being beheaded.
We got it.
Fuck.
No, we got it. That's good.
Last week, we began our spectacular celebration with Beetlejuice. And since Brandon had the first pick of the round, please tell us what Johnny Depp accent we're going to have this evening.
Ooh,
Brandon.
well played. I like that one. Oh shit! So
his normal English accent.
Listen,
piratey.
Listen. There are very few people who are just as weird and strange and beautiful and hypnotic as our friend Tim Burton. And so Beetlejuice is, of course, the brainchild of Tim Burton. And I've been wanting to do this movie for the last couple Halloweens. It's one of my favorite go-to movies. Is it a good quality movie? I'm going to just go ahead and ruin it now. It's not, I don't think. But damn it, for me, it's a fun movie that I just want to talk about. And so we are doing Sleepy Hollow, which is, I think a movie that kind of just has rooted itself in Halloween culture and Halloween tradition. And so I'm excited to talk about this one.
Is that 99? Was that 1999?
Yep. Coming from our favorite years in film, 1999, Sleepy Hollow tells the story of Ichabod Crane, a New York constable who is assigned to the quiet town of Sleepy Hollow to investigate the deaths of 3 of the townspeople who have been beheaded. But when he arrives to the remote village, he finds more than he bargained for, as the killer turns out to be none other than the cursed ghost of the Headless Horseman from the Revolutionary War. This film is based off of Washington Irving's classic novella and directed by the one and only Tim Burton, and has a packed cast that includes Johnny Depp, Michael Gambon,
Dumbledore,
Christina Ricci, Emperor Palpatine, Christopher Walken, and Miranda Richardson.
Rita Skeeter, Daily Prophet reporter.
The film has earned an IMDb rating of 7.3 out of 10 and it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 70% with the critics and an audience score of 80%.
If we use Sean's wording, I think we could all agree that's probably where it deserves to be. So good job, Rotten Tomatoes people.
As with every movie we review, we try to pair our selection with a cocktail that we hope will enhance the viewing experience. Ed,
Yes.
take us through the spooky, spectacular cocktail this evening, please.
I will.
I'm so excited.
In honor of the one and only demon killer ghosts of Sleepy Hollow, we'll be drinking the Headless Horseman, brought to us by the untwistedvintage.com. To make this cocktail, fill a Tom Collins glass with ice. And if you don't know what that is, just pick a regular glass, something tall and skinny.
Yep.
Tom Collins glass. And next, add 2 ounces of vodka, 3 dashes of bitters, and then top it off with ginger ale. I said ginger ale. Stir up and then drink it up. And while you're enjoying, have a head on your own shoulders. Wait, I don't know. That sounds good.
Drink it up while you enjoy having a head on your shoulders.
That's as good as you're
That's
going
as
to
good as
get.
you're going to get with this Headless Horseman drink. I've had too many already. But it's the Headless Horseman, and it brought to us by untwistedvintage.com. Just look up that website.
There you go.
So let's talk for a minute about the okay. Before we get into it, this movie has such a Tim Burton tone. It almost makes me think. I almost gets lost in all the other ones. All the between Edward Scissorhands, which I know is very different, but his tone kind of reverberates through all of his filmography. And to me, this one always gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why it gets lost, but I always confuse it with From Hell, which is the Jack the Ripper one with Ian Holm, right?
Same with Johnny Depp.
Sweeney
Johnny
Todd.
Depp.
Sweeney Todd.
Got this one.
Same character.
Yeah. They were Johnny Depp's kind of movement right there. What I think is really interesting, though, I looked it up, is that this movie, which to me, Sean, you said it right, it has such a Tim Burton-esque feel. Like, I mean, this is to me, when I close my eyes and I think of Tim Burton, I think of the dark, I think of the almost steampunk feel that you get from Edward Scissorhands, you get from here. But what's weird is that this movie was sandwiched in between releasing between Mars Attacks and Planet of the Apes, which to me are kind of departures from the Tim Burton, right? And I think it's really interesting that it's almost like he's still laying claim to his outlook on life while he was still, kind of trying to play the critics and play the production companies and make sure that he's still getting financing.
The Headless Horseman, like I mean, you guys all remember the story growing up, right? Like there was a cartoon, I think a cartoon movie on Disney that was scary as shit.
And there was a double feature, right? So it was Mr. Toad, and then it was The Adventures of Ichabod Crane. And those are the two movies that came out. And Ichabod Crane was this long-necked, weird-looking guy with like a gray hair over the top of his black hair.
Right.
And it was great. I mean,
great.
That terrified me as a kid, by the way.
Oh, really?
Even if I pass a bridge, I think about the Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman. That literally fucking scared the shit out of me when I was little.
Yeah.
So this movie kind of brought that little fear into my little like shelter area here when I was watching this movie, reviewing this movie here last night.
It definitely opened up some closed doors.
No, I'm showing right here. I've got the book that I remember my parents getting because they knew, at 99, I was like 13, I guess. And I was just kind of getting into really loving the classics, the horror classics of Dracula and Frankenstein. I was reading that. I was really getting into literature. And I remember seeing the trailer for this and being like, oh, fuck, I remember the Disney movie. I love the Disney movie. I literally would wait for all of October for the Disney Channel to play that movie, right? Just like I always waited for Channel 7 ABC to play Mickey's Christmas every single freaking Christmas time, right? And so when I saw that it was a Tim Burton, it was Johnny Depp, it was this dark and brooding thing. It was a story that I'd only gotten from Disney. And I remember my parents gave me this and I read the original story and I was like, fuck, this is literally an amazing story. And then you go watch the movie and you say, fuck, this movie has completely bastardized the original story, but yet in this
that was my question. So yes,
it holds on its own,
So the book is completely different than the movie.
Absolutely. Right. So Ichabod Crane is a school teacher. He goes into this quiet little village of Sleepy Hollow. The big question at the end, which is one of my frustrations of this movie. It's it ends all happy where I'm spoiling it, right? But they get off and they go to New York City and they're like, the new century is upon us. Well, the ending of Sleepy, or the Sleepy Hollow, the Washington Irving story is so beautiful because you don't know if he died and you don't know if he just ran away. You don't know if he got carried down to hell. It is this beautiful, ambiguous ending that, oh God, if they had done it in film, it would have left you to the point where you're like gutted. Right. And I wish that they had kept that. I really do.
I do too, actually. I didn't really like the whole idea of like, the Headless Horseman being a fucking hitman, out of the whole movie and shit. That just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I will say this is that I think this is one of the best looking Tim Burton films that you will ever see. I mean, I think visually, set design, the atmosphere, how very gothic it looks, the visuals, it's breathtaking.
We have to talk about that cast.
But I will say this. I think it's one of those underrated movies for Tim Burton that Sean kind of mentioned it earlier, that gets overlooked by the big classics. I think people kind of forget like this movie came out in the 90s and it doesn't get like the recognition that I think it deserves, especially for a rated R Tim Burton Halloween movie. It goes pretty hardcore, man. It does.
See, and I think that to your point, the cast was so phenomenal, right? We have Dudley Dursley, we have Michael Gough, which is of Alfred. Every Batman movie he was Alfred for decades.
Or Tim Burton. Yeah.
We have
Palpatine.
Christopher Lee. So, I mean, we can't forget
even Christopher Lee sneaks in there. Christopher Walken, and even just the kind of the lower cast, right? We've got Casper Van Dien, which in the 80s and 90s, late 80s, early 90s, he was everything,
late 90s, yeah.
In Starship Troopers, you had a really great cast that I think was kind of overshadowed by too much Johnny Depp. Like, I almost feel like this movie could have dealt with a third less Johnny Depp. And I love Johnny Depp. Don't get me wrong. Johnny Depp is fun to watch.
So do you think he Jack Sparrowed
this particular character,
Sean? Do you think he Jack Sparrowed?
Well, no, that's the thing. If he was as interesting as Jack Sparrow, I want to see more. Okay. But this was not a character.
This was pre Jack Sparrow, man. This is like him kind of like getting his feet wet with a big movie and also like kind of being an action movie because he did his own stunts, but he never did this before, since this movie came out. So it's kind of weird seeing him like in this role before the Johnny Depp that we kind of started knowing in the later part of his career and stuff.
Right. And I think one of the reasons why this movie gets lost in the shuffle is because there's too much of his perspective and not enough of the story. Because he's really ancillary to the story. The story is not about Ichabod Crane and his discovery of the Headless Horseman. Or the plot behind the Headless Horseman. It's almost like the plot exists and he comes in, which is fine, but he doesn't really do much to slow or do anything to the.
You say it's Christina Ricci.
He kind of he doesn't. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much.
Well, Christina Ricci saved him. Remember?
But no, what I think is interesting, and I only noticed it. I only noticed it watching it this time and trying to be more critical about it because every time I watch it, every Halloween I watch it, I just kind of like. So here's my tradition. I watch this movie every single night that I carve pumpkins. So like I've done that since forever, and that's just my traditional thing. I just love it because as you guys have known, I'm a traditionalist 100%. What I noticed so much is that Johnny Depp's annoying because his character's annoying. Right, he's such a little bitch.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
He's funny in like 3 spots to me. Right, and it's always where the goo, right, the blood is hitting him. But at the same time, he's such kind of a little bitch character that we don't. I don't know. I don't root for him one little bit here. Right, I don't root for the bad. Ichabod Crane, I think it's lost in the shuffle because, or he doesn't stand out because he's such a weak character. I don't know if you guys thought that too.
I just feel like you have these classically phenomenal actors, right? Like all the townspeople basically are these, especially the Council of Men that are there. They're so wonderful, and they can bring such personality. And I just feel like they missed the boat with something, and either it was not enough of intrigue or not enough like understandable story plot, because it wasn't until like 45. I mean, I've seen this movie probably 10 times. It wasn't until 45 minutes into this movie, even this time, that I was like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. Like, that's what's going on. I'm like, someone's having kids, and there's something about like, I can't remember the plot, like in my head, but then, right. It's not like this.
Jumps all over the fucking place.
Yeah, it gets lost during this whole process trying to figure out like what is like the mystery out of all the things that are happening. But I think Depp was kind of. I thought he was a perfect cast for this movie.
You know what? Yeah.
All right. So basically this movie has like actors from our favorite franchise. So how many people were in Harry Potter in this movie? How many people were there?
Am I supposed to count or off the top of my head?
Off the top of your head, count, and do you know who the characters are?
I want to say
Actors and actresses, right? Only.
Yeah.
I want to say 4.
I'm going to go with 4.
Can you name them?
Yeah, Dumbledore, Michael Gambon.
Okay.
Richard Griffiths, Dudley Dursley.
Okay.
Miranda Richardson is Rita Skeeter.
Okay.
And then I'm missing someone. Hold on.
Was Alfred in it? Was Alfred?
And no. Shit, I'm missing someone though.
I only have 3, by the way. So if you have a 4th one, then you totally
Isn't it
get
Richard
like.
Griffiths?
No.
You already got Richard Griffiths?
I got Richard Griffiths. Yeah. No, there's only 3 then.
Michael
I
Jordan.
cannot think.
Okay.
I was thinking Palpatine was, but he was not for sure.
Well, how many people from Star Wars was in this movie?
1.
We get Christopher Lee.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Palpatine, so 2.
Oh, you got the 3rd one, guys?
Jar Jar Binks was not
No.
in this one.
The Headless Horseman.
When was Christopher Walken in?
Oh,
Headless
it's fucking
Horseman.
Ray Park. It's Ray Park.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's why he was so good with his with the sword.
Oh man.
And the last thing, how many people were in Tim Burton's Batman?
Oh shit.
Well,
You got Go.
There you go.
Michael Gove, yeah.
You guys, so you got Michael Go, Alfred, right? And you said it right there. What was the last
Chris
one?
Lee.
What?
Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Christopher
Only
Walken.
2?
He was in Max. He was Max. Max
Yeah,
something.
Batman Returns. Holy shit! Can you believe how this fucking cast?
I
Tim
know.
Burton's fucking genius is what it is.
It's unbelievable. This cast is like the greatest thing in the world, man.
I was trying to fit Martin Landau in there, and he just wasn't in anything.
He wasn't a Tim Burton film. He was in Bela Lugosi in
Ed
he was in a couple of Tim Burton films, wasn't he? In
He's in Ed Wood. Oh,
no, I guess he wasn't.
he's
was
in
he?
The Majestic, and Sean, we
Ed
know
Wood,
that's an amazing
Ed Wood.
movie.
He was in Ed Wood.
Oh, The Majestic.
The Majestic.
Oh.
The Majestic was one of my favorites.
know.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got this great cast, and I think they were a little underused, but didn't it feel like everyone on set and every scene, like they were so professional, that they worked together so easily that the scenes just kind of flew by?
Mm-hmm.
There was no poor, like, you know how sometimes you're like, there's always that one actor that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb in a movie that I don't quite like, and all of a sudden it kind of drags the whole movie down. I didn't feel like this, even though Johnny Depp's performance wasn't fantastically brilliant, Johnny Depp, I don't think he drugged the movie down. It was no harm, no foul. He just kind of was there. Everyone else just seemed to excel and create this Tim Burton
World.
like mystery. What I wish the movie had done is give a better reveal. Either a better reveal or a slower reveal or a more intricate reveal. And that's why something like, I look at movies like From Hell, where you had this brilliant end scene where it was like, holy shit, if you haven't seen that movie, that's fantastic. And I do want to bring in, probably in 2014, they did a TV show called Sleepy Hollow, and Tom Mizan, I don't know how you say his last name, was Ichabod Crane. And that, to me, it borrowed so much from this movie, and then also created kind of a better version of Ichabod Crane in that he was more engaging. And then all of a sudden you had kind of a lot of deeper magical or mystical arts behind it.
Was that a Fox show?
It was a Fox show, and it got kind of crushed by COVID and never really recovered. But it was one of those really good adaptations that I felt like if this movie hadn't have started it, it would never have come to pass. It would never have been available.
Yeah. So so I want to talk about one thing that I loved about this movie and one thing that I hated about this movie. And I want to just get you guys' opinions of it, and we can definitely talk about any of them or not. So one thing I loved was the intensity of the scene where the husband, wife, and child are killed. And he's hiding underneath the boards. I mean, to me, that is literally one of the most intense, soul-crushing scenes ever. And I mean, that's playing with a lot of fire for Tim Burton to kill a kid the way that he does. I thought it was done in a kind of an artistic and respectable way, but at the same time, that's a fucking gut punch. So I thought that was brilliant, brilliant directing. And the second thing, and I'm just going to throw it out here and then we can talk about it. The second thing that I hated, and I've always hated, and then watching it again, I think I hated more this time, is giving Ichabod Crane the backstory that he has. Number one, he doesn't need a backstory. We don't need to know that his mom was killed by his uber religious dad because she's a witch. And what the fuck's going on? I hated that. I hated that back when I was 13. I hate it now that I'm 30 something. So anyway, those are the two parallels to me: the great and then the absolutely awful.
I have one of my favorite scenes. I'll talk about it later after I talk about like how freaky when the girl's head got rolled, and then you look through the crack from the kid's point of view, and you see her eyes like looking at the kid. And you're just like, oh fuck. And then seriously, like you're right. Like when the kid gets he gets pretty much beheaded, I was like, holy shit, they didn't hold back on this one here. And I read something about like Tim Burton. I guess Tim Burton like always had an issue, like, you know, when there was like a problem, like, you know, where the kid somehow survives. And he's like, nah, none of my movie. The kid's not going to survive in this one, dude.
I'm getting more respect for Tim Burton.
That's funny.
Well, I think it's fantastic, but I do think there's an element of horror in this movie that is, I don't want to say it's disingenuous with the plot and the theme, but it seems like it's extra gory just to get that R rating at some points. And for me, that doesn't really it doesn't really get there. You know what I mean? Like if you look at something like Alien, okay. I know it's not a serious movie like Alien, the original 1978 Alien, 70, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that thing was relentless. It killed people. You had like graphic violence. This was almost comical violence where, yes, I think that the Headless Horseman was dangerous and just never, and who's relentless and never stopped. And there was some beautiful scenes of him cutting off people's heads. I'm telling you, I've never seen people cut off heads like this guy has before. And he was scary. There was a couple of scenes where he was damn freaking scary, but I feel like he was reaching for the R as opposed to peeling back. Like if you ask Quentin Tarantino peels back from NC-17. A lot of directors peel back from heavy R to light R. I felt like this movie, he pushed the throttle to get to R as opposed to, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or
I could easily see this movie being PG-13. Like it was just like he pushed the extra couple bloody scenes, the kid dying,
like 4 cutaways.
It was just like there was things that he pushed for it to be R. It didn't need to be R. He just wanted an R-rated movie.
But on a special effects level, I think that we need to commend it for what it did. I mean, when you have, as silly as it is, when you have what's his name, Dursley, whose head is just spinning around on a top, which it's got that comical Tim Burton over the top, but you got that spinning around, and you don't have a cut, right? You have this idea of like watching this done, and to know that it's pretty much practical effects, right? I mean, at this point, CGI is still kind of new. Right. I think that that's one thing that Tim Burton does, and we have to remember that Tim Burton, first and foremost, has always been an artist, like an actual visual artist, and I think that what he loves to do is to just to throw the art on the screen and then say, okay, well, the story is secondary, right?
He definitely let shots linger where other directors would cut away. Yes. He let violent shots linger longer than I would have if I was directing this movie. And I think that was intentional to get the R rating and also to show some gore.
I agree.
They made it comedy a little bit, though. They made it so much a comedy, like the heads rolling next to Ichabod's leg, right? Like nonstop. Because it was almost like in his reaction, Ichabod's reaction to dead bodies, or like every he was fighting the Headless Horseman, and then he gets stabbed.
The blood
comes in his face. Realistically, I feel like this movie, if it was made today, this movie would not be R. The exact same movie. I feel like it wouldn't be an R movie. It was pushing a comedy feel to it. In my opinion, I don't think it would be an R. If the exact same movie is made today, it would be PG-13.
And that's kind of where I lost. That's kind of where I lost the thread of the movie. Is I feel like it didn't quite know what it wanted to be. Was it going to be like a comedy, like a dark comedy, or was it going to be like a dark movie? I felt like he didn't thread that needle as well as he has in other projects. Let's put it that way. But visually, the horseback riding, the costumes, the sets, the forest, everything about this movie is so quality. It's so well made. It's hard to get. I guess it's hard to criticize because every time I watch it, I'm just like, I want to go there. I want to see this place that really never gets any sunlight.
I want to buy property over there.
Dim, and Christina Ricci looks really good in this light.
Yeah, seriously. But Sean, I mean, I know you guys are saying like it might be a little comical and everything like that. I mean, dude, when I'm watching this movie, it makes me think of Evil Dead 2, where it's like off the wall, gory. It's just crazy, and it's just like. It has that same vibe to it where you're just like, oh my God, what the fuck? This is crazy. Yeah. The only thing that I would definitely wish they could have done is build up the Headless Horseman, because in the Disney version, it builds up the tension for its reveal, right? When you finally see the Headless Horseman, and it's fucking terrifying. This Headless Horseman is like John Wick and shit like that, man. He's like,
and you see him early on.
Exactly. And Sean was talking about Alien. What makes Alien great is you don't see the monster. If you just would have hold up on like kind of just like revealing the Headless Horseman, I think you would have had something more like terrifying when you actually see it for the first time, you know?
I mean, truth be told, I wouldn't have shown him until I had to. Like, until I physically had to. I would have had that movie so damn dark, and I would have had, like...
You see the slice.
I would have made a different movie, though. Yes, I would have relied a lot on candlelight and a lot, but to see him in full, quote unquote, Tim Burton daylight, walking without a head early on, it's just kind of like, I'm like,
I mean, the special effects and how it looked.
Really good.
Really good.
But learn something from Jaws, right? And this is my favorite thing in the world is the director of Jaws 2. Jaws was brilliant because Steven Spielberg did not show the shark, partially because the shark did not fucking work ever in that movie. And we reviewed Jaws. Go listen to our Jaws podcast. It's fantastic. But the director of Jaws 2 said, well, they already know what the shark is, so I'm going to show as much of the shark as possible. And it completely lost any type of scary, threatening. The music of John Williams disappeared, and this had really good music, by the way. This movie, Danny Elfman. I'm assuming it's Danny Elfman. It's always Danny Elfman. But it removes any tension. It removes any gravitas of the character when you just see him, and it's. I don't mean to keep harping on it, but it's J.J. Abrams learned it when he did Super 8. Don't show the creature until you absolutely have to. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, no, it's good. For me, and this is how it's always been with me with this movie, is that this is a movie that I can really break into two parts, right? First half, I think, is one movie. It goes hard in what it goes, and I love where it's going. And the second half, I lose focus, I lose steam. We get the reveal. I don't like the reveal. I think it's convoluted. It's fast. I was taking notes and really going like, what's really going on? I mean, so you got Ichabod Crane. He's leaving. He thinks that that it's all over. He thinks that Katrina Van Tassel's the one, and he's sitting there in the carriage, and he does the little birdie, optical illusion, and for whatever reason, that sparks to mind the fact that he needs to go and check the cut on the supposed Van Tassel's hand. It doesn't make any sense, and I thought that it was almost like we need to keep this movie to 2 hours and 10 minutes or whatever it was, and so let's lose a lot of the connecting dots and connecting tissue, and to me it rushes and it just goes too fast. I don't like the last chase scene. I mean, I think it's cool, action wise, but I don't like the last chase scene. The only thing about the end that I love, and I think that this will be appreciated by you guys, is how it ends, or at least it starts to end at the windmill, right? Which brings to mind Frankenstein, the classic Frankenstein monster. Wasn't that badass? Yeah. I mean, that to me was worth getting to the end just to see that.
I have to agree with you on that. And this is what was really cool about the movie with Tim Burton. It was like paying homage to like all the classic Hammer films, horror films. That's why it's kind of just like gory and it's rated R, and then the monsters are always showing because those were like the OGs classic, and just like Frankenstein in the in Bride of Frankenstein and like in the Windmill, it's like he was like just paying respect of the movies that he enjoyed watching it, and this was his opportunity to actually put it on screen, which I thought was pretty cool.
I couldn't help but kind of feel that nostalgia, and that's what saves this movie every time, because as much shit as I talk about it, I enjoy this movie every time I watch it. I really do. I mean, I know I've been harsh on it, but I like this movie. I like
the vibe of this movie.
Jeremy and I were talking about it at lunch today, and we're just like, it's actually like a solid movie to watch. Like, it wasn't like hard to watch this movie. It was very easy to watch. No. It was the story. I mean, Ichabod, it becomes a detective type thing, and it became a little bit of the Headless Horseman became like this John Wick. And like the Hitman that took away from the whole story of the Headless Horseman. I wish there was they could have came up with a better.
I wish it was just a ghost story, right?
Reason why he's attacking everyone in the city, maybe, or
the problem with the story is that he's under control.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
We don't like that.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you find out that someone's controlling him, then he loses all of his scariness.
Yep.
Exactly.
Because he's not this relentless Terminator that just keeps coming and coming and coming. What was brilliant about the original Terminator is that he had one victim, Sarah Connor, and he would literally kill anyone to get to her. Anyone. And it was just relentless.
The old school with the Headless Horseman is anyone who would cross the bridge, right? Something like that. Right?
And that makes it terrifying. And that's my favorite part of the movie is when Ichabod actually crosses the bridge and it actually pays respect of the Disney original, where you hear the Ichabod frogs, saying his name, and then you actually see the Headless Horseman, whether it's a fake Headless Horseman, which is supposedly might be Braun. But he throws the thing at him and then the pumpkin, and I'm like, oh god, see that's
Isn't that cool?
That's the vibe. I was kind of like, yeah, this is it right there.
Well, I almost wish that. Okay, and I'm gonna say this terribly because M. Night Shyamalan has fallen off of favor, very much so. But I almost wish that Tim Burton had used his creative genius to then hand over the reins to someone like M. Night Shyamalan to village the shit out of it. Because if you village the shit out of it, I cannot forget that movie for two reasons. Number one, because Adrian Brody was fantastic. But number two is because you knew that it was a costume. At the end of the movie, you knew, and you were still fucking terrified of that thing. You still felt this fear inside of you, even after knowing the plot reveal. And in this movie, you could have done that with the Headless Horseman. He could have been multiple people. He could have been... There's so many ways you could have played it. Yep. And they chose this, which is fine. But this could have been like one of the most epic Halloween movies ever, the scariest movie ever. And it just didn't quite get there. And I think it's Tim Burton kind of... Yeah. It's Tim Burton's fault.
So either you go full ghost, right? Full ghost, and it's uncontrollable, or I like the other way you do with like the village style with like, okay, there's 3 people controlling this, and the town wants the town to stay the same. I don't know, like they don't want outsiders coming in.
How badass if it would turn like Wicker Man and Jeremiah? You can hear right where the townspeople, there's nobody that actually got beheaded, and it's just bringing in a new tribute to be killed and beheaded, and at the end you have the town.
That would be really fucking. That would be and really. That
would be a whole nother level. Sean? No. There it is. Rewrite.
Or like, is he actually getting revenge on the people that killed him or something like that? Yeah. I don't know. Just, something like, okay, so you're going to get those the elders in the town.
Throw it generational. Generational. Make it sons and, there are so many things. Illegitimate children. There's so many things
like your
you
curse.
Can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you've got to have this unveiling where it's not a CGI Christopher Walken who gets killed at the beginning of the movie. It's like, it's so, it just doesn't work for me. But again, I like this movie. I'm sorry. I like this movie.
With that being said, every time he was on the TV in the first half movie, like Brian was saying, Headless Horseman, he was scary as shit. Like it was still scary. Like overall,
I enjoyed it.
You get the idea towards the end of the movie. It's like, okay, like, he's fucking just like badass, bulletproof John Wick status here that, you don't get as afraid of him towards the end of the movie. And that's where they messed up. I agree. In the very beginning, the first kill was, I love it. Like you got to see nothing. You got the guy in the carriage. He stands out, head's gone.
Yeah, that was great.
They need to keep it like that. And maybe at most you see the sword coming out the eyes, or you see the shoes, or the sound is what they should have done. The sound, like the little kid running through the bottom of That was so scary.
I loved how heavy he was too. Like how heavy, every time he jumped off his horse, it was like this thump.
He
was
265 for sure.
There.
He was heavy. He was a man.
He was a heavy motherfucker. And he would walk on those creaky boards and like on the roof, and he was heavy. Like you could feel his strength, I guess is my point.
When he kills that family, dude, I mean that was like, oh, okay, we're going here. We're going hardcore. And I was actually a little upset, like, really? You're gonna go to the house, you're gonna come in, this totally takes away the Headless Horseman on his whole, like, his horses and stuff. Like, I don't get it. But dude, when he kills, like, you know, the Kilmans or whoever that family, and then the kid, I was like, okay. We're going seriously, like, this is 1989 stuff right here.
I wish Ichabod...
We're in a new millennium.
I wish Ichabod would have found, though, one of the things that I wish he would have found that the Headless Horseman can't go into the church earlier. Like, they just do that in there.
Oh, I like that scene,
I feel like they need to use that. Yeah, I like that scene, but they need to use something like that. And just, like tiptoe around it a little earlier. They did it too late.
Yeah.
But there was one of the problems that I have is that no rules were established, right?
Exactly.
I am a stickler for rules with any type of villain. If you're going to create, I mean, we talked about it a million times, or I've talked about it a million times. I need to know the parameters of the parameters of what we're working with, and then I know what to be afraid of and what not to be afraid of. One of my there's a scene, I cannot remember what movie it is, but it's you think you know the rules, and then Dracula or a vampire enters the house and he says that's just superstition, and it's like, oh, I love this. What?
That's the Lost Boys, buddy.
That's what it is. That's what
the Lost Boys.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the scenes here in this movie says, "Oh, you must knock before you enter." Right? There's a little, like, they show a sign, "You must knock before you enter." So that would have been cool to have rules for the Headless Horseman, like, okay, anyone across the bridge, I don't know,
like Zombieland, like, on the screen,
a little bit, yeah.
Double tap.
I just watched the original. I watched Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola not too long ago, probably a couple weeks ago.
Who produced this film, by the way?
He's executive producer.
And he is. And one of the things that I really appreciated is that Van Helsing, who was played beautifully by
Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Sir Anthony Hopkins, he laid out the rules of Dracula like 30 minutes into the movie. And he did it like kind of in a montagey way. And it was so like, okay, now I know what he can do, what he can't do. I know why he becomes a green mist. I know why he does all this, different shit. And to me, it makes the movie more interesting because you can start to kind of guess what the end is. And I think here, the end and the whole evolution of the ending of the movie was unexpected, which I like, but also completely, like, underwhelming. Does that make sense?
There's two parts of the film, Sean. Like, the first part of the film, you're just like, I'm in it. The second part of the film, you lost me. Yep. Especially when I'm trying to like follow the family tree of like, wait, so she's related to that person, but they're
and
related
everyone's fucking related in this town,
like
everyone's incestual.
They're all kissing each other, and that stepmom's is kissing everyone.
They're all Lannisters here. They're all Lannisters.
They're all harlots.
No wonder the Headless Horseman wants to get rid of everyone. So Christina Ricci, you get Christina Ricci that I personally feel like you don't get enough of her in this movie.
Oh,
like I feel like that's where they messed up. Like I feel like she was at a time where you saw her and she was like this little angel just walking across Sleepy Hollow. Is just like, put her more on the TV, put her more on, and you got so much Johnny Depp, and I feel like you needed more backstory of Christina Ricci, and you didn't get enough of her.
Like she's supposed to be,
she would have been more badass, and just
she's supposed to be like courting Brom Bones, and we don't get that at all. This is like one reference right after Brom dies. It's like, your man Brom. It's like, oh, it's not time to mourn him. I'm like, he just died. If you were seeing him,
this movie definitely didn't have that character development, right?
One of the things that I think this movie fails at is it does too much. It's just too much.
I can see what
it needs to just pare it back a little bit. And the brilliance about something like Edward Scissorhands is that it doesn't try to do too much. It tries to just do enough to get on screen. You've got that beautiful Vincent Price. You've got the family, and the family is small, and what he does is small, and everything is kind of controlled in its environment. And I feel like this movie,
It's expansive.
Sleepy Hollow, I'm not comparing the two, but Sleepy Hollow gets out of control real quick because you have so many players. You lose track of time. You lose track of the plot, and it just doesn't quite get you where you want to go. However, it's enjoyable to watch. Sometimes the ride is just fun.
Yeah.
And this
It is.
like there was a
agree.
review of in the 90s that it's a kick-ass ride. Anytime a reviewer said it's a kick-ass ride, I'm in. I'm in for that movie because what
We're
they're
into dollar
saying
shows.
is what they're saying is not great, but it's fun to watch.
Yep.
And that's sometimes I'd rather watch that type of movie, this type of movie, than
Yep.
something that's trying to be something else. Like just trying to be
It's not
Shakespeare.
pretentious.
Like, it doesn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I got to actually give you respect, Brandon, about this because when you picked this movie, I was like, why out of all the Tim Burton films, what the fuck, I mean, I get it, but then I'm like watching this movie, I'm like, dude, this has so much Halloween
This is
vibe.
Halloween.
The season, not the movie, by the way, the
Fuck
season. Like it just feels like God. This is a perfect Halloween. I think a lot of people missed out, or people don't have the opportunity, or I don't know. I think people just forget about this Halloween film where you can just like really get into the season with it, and this movie really does that for you. It just gets you in that atmosphere, man. And I actually really had a good time with this movie, man.
Good. I'm glad.
And I forgive it because it's a Halloween movie. I'm sorry. There are so few, and there's so few that are not so hard to watch that violent and terrible. So anyway,
And that brings us to the end of review. Now it's time to the podcast where each of the hosts provides a score on the following scale. Horseman. Yes, he's very long from the outside and from the inside. Horseman.
I read that as Horseman.
And of all of us, he is the
Horseman?
horseman.
Oh, I got you.
Horseman.
Yeah, Christopher Walken. Hey, wait. So what am I supposed to do in this scene? Just that right there. Give me that fever.
You hiss and growl because you
Look at
can't
Tim
talk.
Allen from
because
Home
you get
Improvement.
You got those teeth. You got those pointy teeth in your mouth.
Yeah. So in the very end, did he bite out the tongue of the girl, or did he just bite the fuck out of her lips when he was kissing
He's
her?
just making out with her.
So 0, the perfect movie. You don't need shit to enjoy it. 1, a feel-good first cocktail. 2, a happy buzz. 3, you're going to Uber or Lyft home. 4, rough morning walk of shame. 5, blacked out, shit-faced, spring break drunk.
Okay.
Jeremy, I'm going to change my score from originally what we talked about earlier.
What, you talked about
Don't
it
worry
at lunch?
about it. I'm still sticking to.
I love it. We talked about it like you was around.
Yeah, we were just like vibing.
I feel bad.
and
I feel
everything.
bad for my score. I feel like it's too high.
When you say too high, I never know what high means.
Yeah, I don't understand
Is
what
it
that
too
means.
high or
Is
too
it
low?
low or high?
Too good. Just say
Well-
too good or too not good.
Is it too
If
good
I-
or too bad?
If it's too low, it would be too good.
Right.
If it's too high, then it's
You're
too
gonna shit
poor.
on it. Oh.
Okay.
Jerry, I'm gonna do something
No,
that I've
I
not
didn't.
done.
Brandon.
Listen, Jeremy, I'm doing something that I have not done, I think, ever.
It's a
I'm
5.
giving a full normal
No,
number.
God, no.
Decimal point. We're just going with a number.
Bullshit.
I'm doing it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
right,
go crazy on you.
Well, don't
All
worry
right.
about it.
I feel bad. Look at if my score is out of. Can I need permission to amend?
Nope.
If my score is out of line.
No, because you're going with your gut. We appreciate you.
Sean, blink how many words around. Blink.
Oh my god.
God. Oh,
4.
I saw 3 blinks, bro.
was that per eye? I mean, what are we doing?
1,
All right,
2, 3.
here we go. Okay, so
Okay, I can't see.
I don't know what
Sean,
Sean
no,
is.
no,
I can't see Sean's.
No, we don't. You know what, Sean? You can start us off, buddy. Start us off on a negative note.
Bro, you're
What is
Sean.
that, Sean?
Let's
Why
see.
would you write small?
Sorry.
We're writing small.
Oh,
He has
I
this
don't
whole
know.
sheet of paper and he writes right on the.
I
Like
don't
he's writing
know.
his name.
I don't know. I'm sorry. So I feel like I was harsh on this movie, and then the fans aren't going to like me.
Harsh in the vibe,
It
but
doesn't matter. So I think this is okay. Let me back up for a minute. I think Tim Burton is a revolutionary director. I think he's one of the greatest directors ever born. I think his stuff is unique and wonderful. I think this is visually one of his better, unique, beautiful movies. I think what he gained in visual and cinematography, he lost in story and complexity and character development. I think that if you look at the pantheon of his work, his is always about the heart of characters changing or adapting or doing something. And I don't feel like this movie did any of that.
Good call.
It didn't change anyone's heart. No character really had this grand evolutionary, thought or anything like that. That being said, I think it's fun to watch. It's beautiful. The characters are great. The acting is great. Johnny Depp is fantastic. Christina Ricci looks like an angel. The movie is fabulously wonderful and fun for Halloween. And that's when it stops for me. And just because I'm harsh on it, just because I'm going to give it a higher score, does not mean that this movie shouldn't be watched and enjoyed every Halloween. I think that, I don't know what I gave Hocus Pocus, but I still would watch Hocus Pocus every Halloween. I still watch Hocus Pocus 2, no matter what train wreck. I still watch that one too. So I'm going to give this a 3.75, which I think is just, it's a little high.
Wow.
It is a little high. I'm sorry.
That's what was all blurred.
Think,
That's what was all blurred. Jesus.
Hey,
I do think that,
on this podcast, we're real. Let's be real on this podcast.
It's very true.
And I do think sometimes we are too nice to movies.
It's true. But Sean, to
it's
support
really hard
you,
for me to give this a 2 when
it doesn't revolutionize
it's a sloppy
film.
end.
Right?
It's a sloppy.
Yeah, it does.
It's not at all.
No.
Nothing came from this movie that hadn't been done before.
True. And I will respect you.
Anyway,
Headless
I'm gonna give it to my boy Ed. The horseman, and he's gonna go ahead.
The horseman. So this movie, like I was gonna say, Tim Burton is probably the best part about this movie, personally. Like, because it's Tim Burton, so he just gets the nod. So he gets one less store because of his name on this movie. It is a secret movie it's a secret Halloween movie that, you know what, I can't wait to show this to my kids, and I feel like it's gonna scare the shit out of them. And it's people need to know about the Headless Horseman. However, this story butchered his legacy, in my opinion. Like, the Headless Horseman is this weird character that he's just attached to you for no fucking reason, not because he's controlled. So I feel like they butchered this story in this movie of his whole meaning of what he is. There's a bunch of positives in this movie. Christina Ricci, Johnny Depp, I actually did enjoy him, but I feel like he was too laughable at times. But that's Johnny Depp, so I thought that's what Tim Burton wanted. You get that with Edward Scissorhands. You just laughed a little bit more. To be honest, I probably wanted more Edward Scissorhands seriousness than how he was in this movie. But I enjoyed this movie, and thank you, Brandon, for putting this on the watch list for us. It's a positive movie overall. For Halloween movie, it's a favorite. I want to say add this to the list of Hocus Pocus and all the other Halloween movies you want to watch, with Halloween, the original that Brandon loves. So personally though, I want to break down just a little part of it. Is I feel like this movie reminds me of a Sean's Halloween party story plot. Like, there's so many twists and turns, and it's a good thing. Like, Sean, that's what Sean's level of. That's a Tim Burton here. So
I just called it sloppy and terrible, and it's one of my plots. Thank you.
Some of the people you invited to the Halloween party, I don't think I'm going to invite anymore. But some of those other people you invite, they're sloppy, bro. But overall, it gets to the point. Like, and there's so many. I'm saying there's so many turns. There's a lot of twists and turns, and that's what this movie has. So honestly, though, I gave this a little bit better than Sean. So I do enjoy Sean's parties. If you ever want to go to a Halloween party, Sean's party, he has murder mystery dinners. And bro, you think you're the killer, and sometimes you forget that you're not the killer, and you're actually one of the guys that die. And then you're like, wait, I'm actually the killer. So this is a 2.74. I'm giving this a 2.74. So I'm giving this right between a Happy Buzz and Uber lifting home. Actually, more leaning towards the Uber lifting home. I'm gonna give it to JP.
Hey, I'm grateful when someone picks a movie from the year 1999, because you know what? It's a year of its own, man. Love it. I think this movie has so many stunning visuals. It has this gothic vibe. The town, you feel dread just looking at the town. You feel fear when you look upon the town, it gives you this haunted feeling. The movie did what it needed to do, which it actually just brought like the legend of Sleepy Hollow to the big screen. Now, is it what I wanted in a lot of ways? Not really, because I really think they should have built more of the Headless Horseman up. and just make it more kind of like tension. They need to show the horseman by the end of the film or the mid film just to give it more terrifying vibes and everything like that. I think the cast was awesome. This is probably one of the best fucking casts that you'll ever see on screen. Just legendary actors all around. Johnny Depp, this is pre Jack Sparrow right here, you know. This is before he becomes movie star Johnny Depp, you know. Christina Ricci, you guys said it right. She's an angel in this movie.
Angel.
Loved it. I love every minute that she was in the screen. It's a good movie, man. It's just like I wish there was. Maybe I need to read the book because I think the movie should have been what the book represents, and I think it missed it during the whole time. So for me, it's a happy buzz with a half a shot. It's a 2.25. It's a great Halloween movie, man. It's a good, fun movie. Watch it with your family. Watch it with your friends. Have a few drinks. You know, have some like candy apples and stuff like that, and you know, have a good time.
2.25.
Carve your pumpkins. I mean, carve your pumpkins.
Yeah, carve pumpkins, dude. Absolutely. Bob for apples and shit.
Yeah.
2.25, guys.
Nice. You know what? I appreciate each one of your scores, even you, Sean, because I think what you guys have all said is exactly what I think and I have thought since 1999 when I first saw this movie in theaters. And, you know, I said at the very, very beginning, this is not a great movie, but this is just a fun, wild ride. And there's just something so nostalgic about this movie that just brings me back to it each and every October. And I literally, and I mean this literally, look forward to this movie. There's certain Halloween movies, or I'm sorry, Christmas movies that I look forward to watching, right? I look forward to watching Elf. I look forward to watching the Santa Claus movies. I love those movies because I literally will sit there 2 months out and be like, ooh, I get to watch those movies again soon. I get the same feeling when it's August and September. I'm like, I get to almost watch Sleepy Hollow again. And I think that is just something for me. And I love sharing something that matters to me with people that matter to me. And so I really appreciate just, you know, you guys taking the time to really, you know, look through a lot of the technical glitches and storyline glitches and really kind of appreciate the movie for what it really is. It is a silly, schlocky movie. Absolutely. It is a movie that has no defined direction, which is ultimately its downfall. I do think that cinematographically, it is beautiful. It is Burton-esque. If there is ever a movie that is Tim Burton, it is this one, along with Edward Scissorhands, right? But at the same time, it's not a beautiful movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie. And that's literally why I picked the score that I went with, because a happy buzz is exactly how I feel when I watch this movie. I am happy. I feel like I'm kind of just buzzing. Like I really do. I feel like that I'm kind of just in a different state of mind, and I appreciate the hell out of that feeling. So it's a happy buzz. It is a 2, and I really again appreciate you guys taking a good watch to this.
Perfect.
I do feel like Beetlejuice is, if you're going to say Tim Burton, like that's through and through. Tim Burton. Like if you're
you get the silliness there.
Corpse Bride or Nightmare Before Christmas. Like those movies are like, if I was to say in my head, like, okay, the quintessential Spielberg movie, the quintessential Tim Burton movie. Well, the quintessential Tim Burton movie to me is Nightmare Before Christmas. It's funny, it's gross, it's weird, it's off the wall. It's got so much different shit going on that you go, you know.
But he didn't direct
imagination.
it.
Is just
Tim
like
Burton didn't direct it.
Right, it's in his brain.
Yeah.
Huh?
He didn't direct it.
Produced it.
He didn't direct.
No.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nope.
All this time, I'm thinking that's his masterpiece.
It should have been.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas does not. No, he wrote.
Tim Burton directed.
He created the characters. He wrote the story. He basically co-directed, but he is not.
His name's all over the damn thing. Pretty sure his name's on the front.
Yeah, Tim Burton presents
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Tim Burton's.
Yeah, it literally says Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas.
But he didn't direct
I'm
it,
gonna
guys.
call it audible and say I don't care if he directed it. It's still his masterpiece.
Freaking movie.
All right.
That's why you're saying it's masterpiece, because he didn't direct it. That's why.
I apologize. All right. When we combine those scores and divide by 4, what does Sleepy Hollow get an average rating of, Mr. Eddie?
Yes, I agree. Pickety Witch. It gives us a 2.685. 2.685. Yep.
And Jeremiah, where does that put us on the list of films that we reviewed? What number is Sleepy Hollow?
I'm going to say 68. Sean, what are you saying?
I'm gonna say 54.
64.
64.
Brandon's very close. Actually, it is number 70 on our list.
70. So what is quote unquote
so
better?
What is better? than Sleepy Hollow.
Higher or lower?
No, better than would be lower. Better would be lower score.
So this movie is right next to Beetlejuice, which is better. It's a 6.25. That's
agree
Beetlejuice.
to
Right?
that. I honestly agree.
So you have Pitch Perfect, A Knight's Tale, Terminator, Rocky, Moulin Rouge, The Hangover. Those are all better films.
Okay, so I'm gonna say Rocky and Terminator are a little low.
Right next to Pitch Perfect.
What is
huh?
worse? What is Pitch Perfect can suck it down?
No, but right
what
next
is
Terminator,
worse?
right next to Pitch Perfect. What the?
Like Jesus, what is worse than Sleepy Hollow?
Clueless,
Yeah,
Dracula 1931, Vanilla Sky,
Yep.
The Age of Adeline,
Yep.
Troy 300,
Yep.
and V for Vendetta,
yeah.
and The Ring.
I would
Personally,
disagree
I
with
feel
V
like
for
some of
Vendetta, but
that whole all those movies there are a little in the wrong area. I feel like.
Well,
Which one?
The problem is that once again we're mixing genres. So it's like for a Halloween movie, this is a 7, but overall it's a 3. You know what I mean? So it's just it's hard to put apples and oranges and garlic together in the same bag and call them.
Listen, most of our movies in the below our list are Halloween movies and scary movies. Hocus Pocus, Friday the 13th, Halloween.
Where did the thing go? Where's the thing? Did we do the thing?
We did do the thing. It's actually in the ones. It's in the
Yeah,
one point.
the thing's great.
Yeah.
The new one or the old thing? The new thing or the young?
The old thing, the 1989 thing or
The
87,
1982 one, yeah.
82. So what I thought was brilliant about that movie, which people need to learn from, is if your monster is fucking incredible and
Don't
it
show 'em.
changes, no, you could show it all you want because that thing was fucking terrifying in that movie.
Well, that thing changed every minute.
No one
That changed
knew
every
what the fuck
scene.
it was.
You didn't know what the monster was. Yeah.
All right.
Let's do this.
Oh,
now that
Jason
we're-
confused. All right.
Yes. Now that brings us to the end of this podcast episode, and it's time for one of our gentlemen to tell us which movie we're going to be watching and reviewing next week for our holiday spooktacular. Since Eddie has the next selection the round, Ed, what are we watching? And please tell me why we're watching it and tell us it's good news.
So there's a couple of different options I could have went with. I could have went with the Francis, what's his name? The Coppola, the wine guy. Yeah. So I said the wine
guy.
Yeah, he has a wine company. I could have went with him, and I would have actually ended up with one of Sean's more scariest movies that he's afraid of, and that I'm actually afraid of, and I think a lot of us are afraid of. Jeepers Creepers. I really want to do that movie, but then I would feel guilty to Jeremiah because there's no one in that movie, and that would be that would be a very hard movie to jump out of.
That would be,
yeah,
that would be hard, dude.
that'd be very hard.
Justin Long, when you get the walrus.
Okay, to try to pick a scary movie out of that, you just pick Jeepers Creepers 2. I could have went with a Harry Potter movie, but judging by how we all talked about the angel earlier in this movie, I want to go throw it back to Christina Ricci with Addams Family, the original Wednesday, since Wednesday is so amazing. But I'm going to go with the Addams Family.
So close to Casper.
I was hoping for
Addams
Casper.
Family Values Part 2.
Ooh, you're going
So
two.
Part 2.
So part two.
Part 2.
Part two is the better one. Yeah.
And this is going to be also. I'm intrigued to watch this movie because it's going to be a train wreck. There's no real story here with the Addams Family, but
So
it was that or Casper. And honestly, I'm trying to pick between the two,
Joe
and
Cusack.
it was honestly coin flip, guys.
That's a story.
You know
It was a
what's
coin
fun
flip.
is I'm pretty sure Christopher Lloyd was just cast in Wednesday season 2.
He
So I'm
was.
very
Outta here.
excited.
That's a great
yeah.
cast.
Mhm.
So he's not Uncle Fester, obviously, because that's Fred Armisen. But I'm curious to see what he comes up with because he was.
How do you miss the mark on that? How do you miss not fucking casting him as Uncle Fester?
I'm not. Well, first of all, I don't know how they cast him as Uncle Fester in the first place and got it right because I'm sorry, but I love Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd's one of my cherished actors in my pantheon of old actors.
Yep.
But I would never have cast him. I would never be a casting director because I would never have cast Heath Ledger as the Joker, and we would have missed out on The Dark Knight. I remember saying, "You ruined the franchise. He's going to be terrible." I'm not a good casting person. That's not my thing.
Addams Family Values. This is the one with It's part 2. I just say Addams Family.
When
part
they go
2.
to camp and everything, and Joan Cusack. Yeah. I actually like this one.
And Pugsley.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them. Anyway,
this is a 1993 movie, and I just always, who doesn't enjoy the Addams Family?
Well, and we have a very good cast. We've got a very good cast to pick from. Who's the next person after you, Ed? Is it
Jeremy?
Jeremiah?
It's me,
JP.
actually.
Jeremiah, you have a very good cast to pick from, including obviously Christopher Lloyd, but you've got Cusack,
Angelica Houston,
Joan Cusack in there, Angelica Houston. Oh, if you enjoyed our review or fan of the podcast, we ask that you please subscribe wherever you're listening, and you can leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. You can find us on Instagram at the.gentleman podcast. You can also reach out to us at hosts at gentlemanpodcast.com, at gentlemanpodcast.com. And we want to thank you all so much for listening. Jeremiah has one more thing to say, but I just want to say thank you for all the increased viewership, and this year has been incredible. And as we come to the end of 2024, I just want to personally and on behalf of my fellow gentlemen say thank you so much for the increased viewership and the camaraderie that you bring with this show. We enjoy the hell out of doing it, and it's just fun as fun could be. So, Jeremiah.
No, I'm just going to piggyback on you on that. I'm going to give out shout outs to our listeners in St. Paul, Minnesota, our listeners in Chicago, Illinois, our listeners in Massachusetts, Cambridge, Boston, Middletown, New Jersey. Thank you so much, listeners.
Spread it out there.
That is awesome, dude.
We'll come visit.
Thank you so much, man.
Come visit if you want us to.
Absolutely, man.
With that, we will enjoy next week Halloween Spooktacular Part 3 with Addams Family Values. Thank you all for listening, and cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Clink.
Oh, God, that's going to be fun.
Thank God, Ed. I thought you were going to go with one, and I was going to go with two.